Okay. All right. So yeah, so what we, the most important thing that we really talk about in our business, I call my company the big idea company. So obviously we're always talking about big ideas, but why do I really get into that, And what I've learned over the years is that people don't buy products and services. They actually buy the ideas that are attached to it. And most of the time, we're not really aware of that when we're a consumer. We're just going somewhere in the marketing world that got into our head that we really want this thing, and there's a whole big idea attached to it, and we go out and buy that thing. And like I say, we're not always aware of it uh, when we're a consumer, but we're also not aware of it often when we're selling something. So we're out there, we have an idea what we think the big idea is, but the customer may have a completely different view about that. So my famous story, which is the lobster contest, I'm just going to go over that because this is really where I had that insight. And it goes with, some of you have obviously heard this story before, but about 40 years ago, I worked at this restaurant chain called The Keg, for those of you not in Canada. And it's a steak restaurant. And they had this, and I was a waiter, and they had this contest to see which waiter could sell the most lobsters. So the people are going to buy a steak. We also wanted to sell them a lobster. And that was the contest. And so we're trying everything. The waiters were trying everything to sell lobsters. I was trying all kinds of things. And after about 3 weeks, I was kind of in last place. I'd sold about 4 lobsters. And so, I basically had just been acting like a salesperson. They'd order a steak and I'd say, hey, you want to have a lobster with it? And then I would try to talk that up. Dinner will be so much better if you have a lobster with it. And generally speaking, most people were just like annoyed by that and didn't like that because I was trying to push something on them. So they didn't like the idea of what I was putting in front of them. So then I switched it up, and I had my first big idea, and I told them something else. I didn't change the product. I didn't change the price. I didn't change anything else. I just changed the idea that I put in front of them. And I ended up selling 1,400 lobsters, and the second waiter sold like 90. So I was way ahead, and it was all because I changed the idea that was attached to the product. And that really made me wake up and say, wow, that's really interesting what's going on there. So what I learned from that is that initially I was communicating a bad idea. Okay, like there was it wasn't that the product was bad. It was that the idea that I had was bad. This wasn't working. So the idea I was putting out there, and you want to think about what makes a bad idea when you're out there communicating in the marketplace. So one is that it's all about you. Okay, so hey, you want to buy a lobster? And they just thought it was about me, right? I'm the salesperson. If I sell lobster, I'm going to make money. It was just all about me, right? And that's what most of us do. Even though we don't really want to be that way, it's just how it comes across, right? And it may not even be about you. You may be completely trying to help them, but the perception is that it's all about you. So the next thing is that you come across as a salesperson, okay? And that's really deadly. Because you think about how you treat salespeople when they knock on your door, right? We end up not even answering. We don't answer the phone. We don't answer the door. We don't answer the email because we just don't want to be confronted by a salesperson, right? And so, the odd time we'll go, okay, I got time for you. But most of the time it's like, eh. And then even then it's kind of, oh, this person's trying to sell me something. You're not really getting a good feeling about that, right? Now the other thing is that the idea you're putting out is just not very interesting. I mean, you might think it's the most interesting thing in the world, but it isn't. And this is kind of where my journalism background comes in, because you could write a story that was very factual, but it's not very interesting. Like, it doesn't have very good headline. You know, there's nothing that really grabs you right away to read the story. So you go, oh, that's kind of boring. I don't want to read the story, right? Or, you know, you go to a website, it's kind of boring, next website. Or, you know, somebody posts something on LinkedIn. That's the most brutal place, right? You go on LinkedIn, it's like, oh my God. Like, that's what people are doing on LinkedIn, right? It's all about them. They're acting like a salesperson, and it's not very interesting. So I go, don't even do it. Like, just, it's actually better if you didn't do it. Okay. Because it's like, boring. Here we go. And I like, think of how many people post all this. Look at what I'm doing. Hey, look at me. Look at me. It's like, okay, I really don't care. Okay. The other thing is that you're often using the same idea that your competitors are using. And that's what I call the penguin problem. So like, they perceive you as a penguin selling hot dogs, like you're like everyone else, and you're selling this commodity. And let's just remind you that I'm saying you've got something really good here. It's not like you don't have a good product. It's just that the way that it's being packaged is not unique. It's not advanced. It's just penguin selling hot dogs, right? And this is really the trick of understanding this, because you got to be brutally honest with yourself about what the heck you're up to. You know, like, I get financial advisors calling me, okay, and because I guess because they see my books or whatever, and then they try to get, somehow they get my number or whatever, or they send me an email. But if I ever pick up the phone and then they start talking, I go, it's a penguin selling a hot dog. Nothing interesting, all about them. I've heard it 100 times already. You know, I just feel bad for them, really. I know they're just trying to do their job, but, you know, they don't understand. I really tell them, I said, you go back and figure out something more interesting and come back and tell me, because right now you're not telling me anything I haven't heard already. Okay. And then the other thing is that, like, as I was alluded to, we often don't really know what idea we're actually putting out there. Like, we think we know the idea, but we don't know what the idea is in the minds of the customer. And there's a lot of delusion around that, because we think, oh, they must love this because I love it. They must love it. And this is one of the fallacies of that idea of fall in love with your product. You ever heard of that one? You know, you got to have passion. You got to fall in love with your product. That's kind of where you get the delusion, because you think, I love this product so much, you know, because if I sell a whole lot, I'll get rich. So therefore you love it. But the marketplace doesn't care about any of that. So, you know, we're in a delusion that what's ever in their mind is in our mind. We're projecting that in there. So that's a huge problem, right? And we don't really get it. And then the last one, and this I'll give my dad credit for this, is that he said, don't ever believe your own BS. Okay, he used the actual long form for that. Okay, but I know what it means, and so that's when you really get in trouble. You know, they say, well, that guy, he actually believes this. And my dad was in marketing too, and he said, yeah, we're in the bullshit business, but it's good bullshit, and you know, we're doing a good thing here. But he'd look at somebody else and go, yeah, but they actually believe, like, you know, when they saying all those things, they're just so caught up in themselves that, you know, they've lost it. Okay. So we really want to be careful about that. So what is that really telling us? We have to make it all about the customer and not about you. And somehow psychologically, we have to understand what's going on with them. Okay. And so that can be challenging, because like I say, it requires brutal honesty of yourself. It's like, yeah, I'm believing my own BS. You know, I'm making it all about me. I'm a penguin. I'm selling hot dogs. Oh my God, you know. So it's super. That's the beginning of really being successful with this, because then you can say, okay, well, then what is going on here? What do we have to do, right? So what's a really good big idea made of? Okay, so they're kind of the opposite. So one is, it's all about them, you know, and the way to do that is to say, okay, I'm going to pick who I'm trying to help. So you want to fall in love with your product, but you could fall in love with your customer. Okay, so you can say, I really want to get to know this customer, and I want to make it all about them. Okay, and really, you know a lot about them because you've been working with them a long time. These kind of type of people. So one of my clients had the owners of construction companies as his customer type. And he said that alone, just to say that, to go to see people and say, look, I specialize in working with the owners of construction companies. He said that was the most important strategy that he ever used in his career. Just that one thing, because he made it all about them. Okay. Before that, he was saying, well, I'm an advisor, I sell insurance. It's like, but now he says, no, I'm trying to help the owners of construction companies. So he made it all about them. And that was, so that really made his career. Okay. So, and the other thing you can do there is say, well, it's not only do I work with the owners of construction companies or something, he said, I work with the owners of successful, and forward-thinking construction companies. So he was a little bit flattering, right? But he was saying that's really who I work with. And the person, oh, well, that sounds like me, right? So the idea already is starting to, a really good idea in their mind is starting to form. Oh, this person cares about me. They have a specialty in me. The next thing, which is really important, is it gives them an exciting idea about something new, better, and different that they can become. So if you think of yourself in the transformation business, you're going to be in good shape. Okay. So usually we don't care. I'm going to sell you this widget, and I hope, I don't care what you use it for, really. Just give me the money and I'm happy. But in this case, we're going, okay, I have this widget, but it's going to help you become something. And this is what you can become. So if you think about very successful advertising campaigns on TV or in print or whatever, when you look at that ad, like say for a car, okay, it's not about the car. It's about you looking and imagining yourself in that car driving, through the tundra somewhere, right over the rocks, and you're this adventurous person and everything. That's what they're actually putting in your head. Oh, I could become that person driving through the tundra on all those rocks, and then I stop and I look out in the Grand Canyon or whatever, and I'm an adventurer person and whatever. So what are you trying to help your customers become? Like, what's that ideal thing that your widget will help them become? The other thing is that it teaches them about a big problem they didn't know they had. So I'll tell you about toenail fungus in a minute, and that they understand that you can help them solve that problem. So you're identifying a problem. That's why I asked you that question. What's the big problem that people have, that your customers have, that no one's trying to help them, nobody's helping them with? But when you figure that out, you want to give it a name. Okay. So toenail fungus, it's a funny one. So I was driving down the highway and I see this billboard and it says, do you have toenail fungus? And there was a toenail that looked like it had fungus on it. And it was like pretty disgusting. And I go, oh, I got a lot of things to worry about, I guess, but I never thought about that one. But then I'm starting to think about my toes and whether I have fungus on my toes, right? So I go home and I'm looking at my toes and going, I don't know if I got toenail fungus, and maybe I should get that stuff that will solve the problem, right? So they introduced a new problem into the marketplace. Okay, so I don't know. Do you have toenail fungus? You got to decide, right? Maybe you're starting to worry about that now. So this is what we can do: is in a way invent a problem to be solved, right? It doesn't mean you're at least inventing the packaging of the problem. And half the solution of a problem comes because we diagnose it and we give it some kind of name, right? I think COVID-19 had some other name before that, some kind of long medical name, and then they called it COVID-19. That was the beginning of getting our head around it, right? So what's that problem that you helping people solve? The other thing is that we want people to perceive you as a caring expert with good intentions and not a salesperson. Like, I'm not saying salespeople have bad intentions, but there are some that don't. So if you act like a salesperson, then they may think, oh, maybe you're one of those, So, and on the weekend, somebody came by, she was a real estate agent, to our house, and she came up the door, and I came up to the front of our house and looked out and went, oh no, here's somebody trying to sell me something. And she was giving out these bags for food drive, right? So good for her. Like, but initially I was like, oh God, what is she trying to sell me? And then she was doing this. And I go, oh yeah, well, no, she actually cares about the community and everything. It's good PR. Obviously, she's promoting herself too, but that was a good one. Like, I think she did a good job there, right? So she overcame my initial skepticism there. And then the other thing is you're very, very clear about the big idea that you are communicating, because you're doing this very deliberately. Okay. You're saying, I'm not going to be the penguin selling hot dogs. I'm going to be the caring expert that's got something really special here that, and I know exactly what I'm up to. And I'm going to work really hard to get that idea to be in their head. Okay. Like, we talk about branding. They throw that around all over the place. Most people just think it's something to do with a logo or something. But really, branding is the thoughts and feelings that the customer has in their mind about you. So if you want to talk about branding, that's really what it is. So, and then packaging is how we get that into somebody's mind. Okay. And so that's what I'm talking about. So if you want to use the term branding for all this, then that's fine. But it is, a logo could help with that maybe, but images and stuff. But that's the thing. And then the other thing is that you can't fake it. You have to be authentic and well-meaning with this. Like, that's all there is to it. A lot of people can really see through that. I think we're very sophisticated now as consumers that, that we're very aware when somebody's being fake, and that when we can pick up on that pretty easily. We've got a lot of good experience with that. Okay, so those are what a big idea is made of. Now, I'll give you an example here. This is Bill Simpson, and his basic idea about what he does is he's a inventory manager. Okay, like he inventory consultant. And so he'd always been going out, so I'm an inventory consultant, and that was pretty boring. But he did a good job, and he got some business from that. But but what we did was we packaged up his big problem and his big idea. So what he came up with was called the balanced inventory model. So he would go to these companies and they say, what do you got? And he said, well, you have a problem. You have an unbalanced inventory. You don't have enough inventory. Sometimes you have too much at another time, kind of fluctuates back and forth. This isn't good. So what he said was, but what I have is this approach. I call it the balanced inventory model. And they'd say, what's that? And he'd say, well, what we're going to do is help you have a balanced inventory at all times. Like, it's just kind of not too much, not too little. And we have to put a system in place to make that happen. And when you do that, it's just much more profitable, and you never run out. You can keep your customers happy and so on. So by packaging up the problem, the unbalanced inventory problem, and then he had the balanced inventory model, people could really see this special thing. And then once they got in their head, we want to have a balanced inventory. This sounds great. The only person they go to was Bill. So he said, a year later to me, that the first 6 companies he presented this to all hired him. And he said they all hired me because they wanted a balanced inventory. Like, it was as simple as that. And then he was able to charge a premium for it because he was the only one that had that, right? Like, if you wanted a balanced inventory at that point, it wasn't like you could go somewhere else and get it from somebody else, right? So this was his thing, right? This was now his big idea. Okay, so last piece about that. So that's an example. Here's a few, tips, like practical things to do. So one is to say, okay, we're always going to name the problem. And in a way, that's even more powerful than naming the solution, because that's what really hooks them. So he had the unbalanced inventory trap. That was the name of it. And he said he put a little trademark on that. So he's saying, I own that terminology, unbalanced inventory trap, right? And then he has a story behind that. And then the solution was the balanced inventory model. And model meaning it's kind of an ideal outcome, right? So that's how he named those two sides of things. And this kind of encapsulated everything he'd ever been trying to say in these short sentences, these short phrases, right? It builds on what we talked about last week, which was value position. You want to seek to occupy a higher value position in the mind of the customer. So what I did myself was, back in the day, I thought, you know what, we're kind of marketing plumbers. We do all these marketing jobs, for people, like fixing their pipes, and that's great. But what they really need is an architect, a marketing architect. So what we did was we said, well, we can be your plumber or we can be your architect. And we'd like to be your architect. We think that's a more valuable thing. So they, yeah, we want you to be our architect. And we were the only ones around that were really positioning ourselves as an architect, right? So that analogy worked really well for people. And it put us at a higher value position. So once again, that's part of the big idea, right? Big ideas are like, it's this whole package of things in their mind they're perceiving here, right? About what's going on. The next thing is, once you have that, then you start having supporting words, stories, and images, right? Okay. So I was going to be the marketing architect, and I have my big idea program and so on. And then I had, well, I tell you the lobster story. I got this story about the lobster, right? And then, and I created some words like, you don't want to be a penguin, you don't want to be selling hot dogs, and then I used some images around that, like pictures of lobsters and penguins and things like that, all kind of really silly stuff, but it really works. Okay, in my case, that was a really good. So then you start to build everything around that big idea. You see. Now, the other thing, I don't think I have a line for this, but what happens is, once you have this, then you could do 100 things for them, and all of it makes sense as long as it supports them, solving that problem and achieving that ideal model kind of thing. So then you can really expand what you're doing and not really feel like you're losing control of what you're up to. Like, it's all pointing to the same place, right? It's all gravitating around the big idea. Contrast the big idea with the basic idea. So I say, well, you can get the hot dog or you can have the gourmet meal. I can be your plumber or I can be your architect, right? You can be a client or you can be a member. I can provide you with my service or you can be in my program. So that's very good communication, because then they go, oh, okay, well, I really get that. And yeah, and I want the special thing, right? This is how this can really help them see it quickly, right? What you're up to. Because the other thing is, when you're ever going to explain this, they haven't heard this before, which is a virtue, but it's also, okay, it takes a little explaining, right? No one wakes up in the morning wanting your big idea, because they didn't even know to want it, right? And then this kind of builds on the other line there, which is that you teach them about this. You have to give them a little education, and you can use like objects and themes and metaphors and so on. So hence penguins and lobsters and hot dogs and basketballs. I've used that one. Hammers. I have one talk about hammers. This is all really helpful to get them to see what you're really talking about. And you just have to have a little faith that they're going to get it. Now, the other thing is, you can have the faith that they're going to get it. Once they start getting it, you'll be happy and you'll know that it works, but initially, but you also know that you've still got the basic thing anyway. So you're not any farther behind. You just added on something new. And then this is kind of important to keep your confidence up, is to focus on people who really get your big idea. Okay. So when you go out and start talking to people, some people are going to get it and some people aren't. All right. In my case, it's actually like 1 out of 10 people really get what I'm talking about. So smart people like you guys. Okay. And so that I live with, right? And that's okay, because not everybody is going to get it, and I don't worry about it. I don't think, I don't take a vote and go, well, 9 out of 10 didn't get it, so therefore this isn't a good idea. I go, no, that's just the way it is. 1 out of 10 are going to get it, but all I got to do is keep looking. If I talk to 100 people, I'm going to get 10 that get it, so I'm good, right? And I call those the green lights, and that's really important, right? Now, it also on your part to make sure that you communicated a well enough that those green lights are going to get it. Okay, that is your responsibility. So you got to make sure, am I using the right words and stories to communicate this idea to people? You know, was Bill and we talked balance inventory, he had to try that out first. And then he said, no, it's working. Okay. And these people get it. And it looked like a lot of people in his case got it. Right? Okay, so those are some tips on how to get that happening. Now the lobster contest, I'll just finish up with that because I kind of didn't tell you how I did it, and some of you may not know. Is that what I did was I said I just used all those techniques. Okay, I went up to this one table with 20 people. They had an office party, and I said, you know, you have two choices today. You have the basic. You can have the basic steak, or you can have the special, which is a steak and lobster. So he said, gave them that contrast, right? And what do you want to do? So that at that table, all 20 of them bought the special. So I just sold 20 lobsters, right? And that was amazing. So I just kept doing it, right? And then I started thinking, well, why is this working? So one is that I really had made it all about them because their choice was now that they had to decide, were they going to be basic person or were they going to be a special person? Like they might not have articulated that in their mind, but they felt it, right? I don't want to be a basic person. I want to be a special person. So it was all about them. See, the other thing was that I was no longer being a salesperson because I was just giving them that information. I wasn't trying to push anything. I just said, here's your choices. I was easy one way or the other, right? And they were like, I wasn't, they could say, oh, no, he's not being a salesperson. He's just telling us something. The other thing is it added value to the dinner. It turned what could have been a basic office party into a special office party. And everybody had that better feeling about the whole party, right? So, oh, we're having a special party. Our boss isn't cheap or whatever, you know, we can have a nice time at our office party. And then that led me to the ultimate insight here, which I started with, is that people buy ideas, they don't buy products and services. And because I go, well, I didn't change the product here. That didn't change. I just changed the way I presented it. So what changed? Well, the word special probably helped. You know, all the different way they perceived it now. I'll be a special person. We'll have a special office party. They thought, well, all that value got created in their mind just by using that word special, essentially. All that value got created. So, oh, the value is not actually created just by how hard we work or whatever, but it's actually created in the minds of our customers by how we present what we're doing, you see. So most of the value was actually just in their mind. And that was huge. So then, you know, okay, well, how do I create more value in the world, perceived value? I don't have to make the product better. I just have to make the idea better. And that's something that most of us don't do. I got to make that product better, make the product better. I go, your product's fine. Now we got to make the idea better. Okay. Like that's all there is to it. We just got to make the idea better. And that's actually really so much easier, obviously, than it is to make a better product. And you know, and the thing is too, is often the best product isn't the one people buy. It's the one that has the best idea attached to it that people buy. And that can be very frustrating if you're in the marketplace and competing and seeing other people doing that and going, wait a minute, why are they all buying their product? Well, probably because they have attached a better idea to their product. So that's the presentation about that. So wait a minute, I'll go here back. So now I'm interested to hear what you think about what I've been talking about. Anybody have any thoughts here? I'll just remove my spotlight here. Let me do that. The bigger one there. Okay, there we go. So, so any comments on that?
I mean, I just think it's common sense that so many people don't think about, and they're so busy trying to sell a product.
Yeah,
they don't try to show that they're trying to solve a problem. I've told my kids, you know, just become a problem solver, and you'll be very successful. But I think so many people are so concerned about pushing whatever their product is in their line of work.
Yeah, well, okay, so you're kind of getting to the heart of where you got to start with this, because you know, most of the time we're trying to solve our own problem, right? Like or achieve our goal, right? Like I want to make $1 million or something. So that's our goal. Nobody cares about that except you. Okay. Okay. But if you were to go out in the world and say, well, I'm going to help you make $1 million, well, now they're going to be interested in that, right? And but most of us, unfortunately, these days it's all me, right? And that, I guess you can get by in the world that way, I suppose, but in the marketplace, that's just going to be deadly. So I see a lot of people who take that approach. They're very ambitious, but it doesn't work because it's just obviously so much about them. And they even say, well, my goal is to sell this much, It's like, to the customer, I go, I don't care about that, It'd be like me saying, hey, there's this lobster contest, and if I win, I'm going to get this great prize. Will you buy a lobster from me? Like, I don't think so. Like,
well, people do say that, though.
I know, but it's not good. I mean,
Well,
really, it points to the fact that like 90% of people in their marketing, on their websites and everything they're doing, it just sucks. It really does. It's like so bad.
90% of people are olfactory people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the idea where does it resonate, right? It's kind of like almost like a harmony, right? That your idea, is it resonating, like almost like a melody with your client, right? And solving a problem and this idea of resonance. One comment too is about imaging. I'm an engineer, so my presentations tend to be lots of words, right? And if I just throw more words at you, you're going to buy my ideas, right? And my products. And, now just like you were showing, your lobster and your steak and this great imaging. And I think with the ability to create these amazing images very easily, we're going to go from the words to the ideas, a way of communicating. Just like emojis.
Okay, well, that's a good point, because like ChatGPT, for example, was really helpful in me putting together this presentation. Like all those images were actually created by ChatGPT. So this is what I want to say, and it made the picture, and I was able to put it in there. So it really sped up the process of creating the materials for communicating. So this is why I think we're really into a boon here. People are focusing so much on misinformation from all of this, but it actually can help you actually provide good information just as easily, right? So it all depends on what your intentions are, right? So
yeah. So every restaurant menu should have images of their food now.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're trying to create an image. What is your ideal meal? What is your idea product? Imagine it, and we'll create it.
Yeah, good. Okay, because really you can do that, right? I mean, Michael Morrissey was showing that imagery of creating the cocktail for your hotel bar or whatever, your bar. And and he was able just to basically make that really quickly. And it's like, wow, that's amazing communication, right? So anyway, so that's, if we're intersecting here with AI right now, AI can really help you do this stuff more than ever, right? But AI isn't going to help figure out what the big idea is. It's not going to do it. It can help you maybe figure it out with you, but it's not going to pop up, say, hey, your customer's got this problem, you should help them with it. At least not at this point.
Bill, what specifically did you, what did you actually do in AI? Are you going right to, ChatGPT 4 or one of the one of the plugins? What were you using to do those images?
Yeah, well, it's just embedded right in ChatGPT 4 now, is that you can just ask it. It's like, so I say, I just have create an image 16:9, like that's 16 by 9 orientation. So it's like wide, right? Letterbox. And and then I just ask it, like, take a picture of a where's it now? Back to that. Yeah. So that the lobster picture there, right? So I said just a picture of a lobster and a steak on a plate, right? And it gave me a bunch of a couple of ones that weren't that great. And then I changed it to oh, somebody's trying to get in here. Give me a second. You know, I just kept hitting do it again, do it again, do it again, and then it did, like the third one was awesome, right? I went on I had like an account with Adobe Photo iPhoto or whatever, iStock, and it was charged. They were charging about $50 a month for a certain number of credits and stuff, and which I always thought was pretty high, I think. But they I said, I'm canceling that. Like I might go back in and buy one once in a while, but I didn't want to be on a subscription. And they said, well, why are you leaving? I go, sorry, ChatGPT 4. Like, I'm sorry about that, but you know, I'm getting everything I need now, and they're original, and they own, and I, you know, there's no copyright problems or anything. So that's why this is so disruptive, right? So they have a problem right now. So maybe somebody can help them solve that.
Bill, going back to the presentation, I think,
Yeah,
you know, the contrast, the contrast between, you know, the trap and the model
yeah,
is particularly attractive. You know,
yeah.
and your toenail thing. I mean, you didn't know you were in the toenail fungus trap until
I
you
didn't.
presented that.
Now I can't get it out of my head. I'm just like obsessed with my toenails now.
I think that's very good.
But I have to say, just for clarity, I have very, very good toenails. There's no fungus at all. So don't worry. It's because I've been paying attention, right? I can give you another example of the problem that worked for me. Like the first time it really worked for me, I had written a book. It was called Beyond Basketballs, and my speaking agent got me this gigs to speak at the Johnson and Johnson annual conference, like for their employees and everybody. So like 350 people in Canada. $10,000. I'm going, okay, well, I can't turn that down, but I'm scared out of my mind because I don't know anything about pharmaceuticals or anything. What do I know about that? You know, I'm writing about basketballs and stuff. Anyway, so I go I go there, but I thought I got to get them really hooked. So in that book, I talked about the product first trap. That's like the first time I'd really named a problem. And so I got up there. I said, well, you know, the biggest problem that companies have is the product first trap. It's like they fall in love with their product. Companies fall in love with their product. They forget about their customers. Just what I'm talking about today, really. And the CEO of the company stood up and said, Bill's absolutely right. We're in the product first trap. We never had a name for this before, but now we do. Product first trap. And then they said, well, what's the solution, Bill? And I said, well, that's the relationship first formula. You got to work on developing these ongoing relationships with your customers and really find out in real time what they want and so on. That's fantastic. Oh, the relationship first formula. We love it. And then they ended up hiring me as a consultant, like for tons of money. And I'm going, I literally don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. Like there's so many people who are specialists in pharmaceutical marketing. Like think about it, right? I know nothing. They hired me because I had to find the problem and a solution. And I could just kept guiding them through that thinking. That's all I did. Right. I didn't try to get to know, you know, all their aspirin and their different drugs. I'm just guiding you through this thinking process now. They loved it, you know.
Sometimes knowing too much is an impediment.
Well, that's true because they were all caught up in the old factory way of doing things, right? All the other folks. So I was like a babe in the woods. So maybe that was helpful, right? Right. But I did have good intentions. I was trying to help them. I was going, you know, this is generally speaking the problem I see with every company, big or small. And it's not like I think it was Tom. You know, it's actually common sense, but we're not acting on common sense a lot, right? So that was good. So, anyone here have a name for a problem that you use with your customers?
Yes, Bill. Hi, it's Fred.
Hi, Fred.
So, I don't know, when did we first meet? It was, I think, 2010.
Well, I don't know. I'm too old to remember years.
Go back a while. So I went through your program, and it was the best money I ever spent in marketing. No kidding. And you know, we had a tiger by the tail, but we just, you know, we had all of the problems about not communicating correctly, and we did the program with you, and
Yeah.
we came up, what we discovered, that people were into this. They didn't have a plan. They're approaching things from the point of view of products or information or services, but we realized that all of that was for nothing if they didn't have a plan. So we realized, we named it, and we said, look, people are falling into what we call the no plan trap.
Right. Perfect.
You know, and it worked. It works very, very well. And they were looking for a solution, so we created the Beautiful Balcony Solution Program.
Perfect.
And then we did one for developers called the Beautiful Balcony Advantage Program, which gave them competitive advantage over their competitors, and monetize things and whatever. So it does work. And we created the definitive article and the brand,
which is the script about how to describe it to people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And
Good.
it's really cool, and I just use it all the time, and people get it instantly. And the 3 cups model is really, really cool too. And then there's the basic or the full service. I mean, we're doing a kind of a Christmas campaign right now, where we've taken our Beautiful Balcony Solution Program and broken it into 3 different phases. And so we're creating a campaign it's very close to Christmas, I know that, but on Friday we're going to launch it as a 3-day campaign. But today we're launching a thing called a shot across the bow, where we're asking people, look, it's kind of a quick announcement and a favor. We're asking people to give us their thoughts about phase 1 of our program, right?
Good.
And it's all about people's dreams, needs, and options assessment, and that being the foundation. I said, literally, after weeks of fine tuning this, this has become a labor of love. I'm wondering if you could give us your thoughts about what you see as the 2 most the biggest issues that you're faced with when you think about upgrading that balcony or terrace, that bare balcony or terrace. And then I put them to a Survey Monkey link so that they can give me their questions or their answers or whatever.
Good.
And then I'm simply going to use all of what they tell me in the script of the copy as I go forward over the next 3 email sequence.
Yeah. Well, so you got out of the boring idea trap, okay? And you're using the big idea thinking. So this is good. I really like the questions. That's very good, right? So if you start asking them questions, then they really do feel like you care about them, right? And they're not intrusive, right? They're just because you're just trying to find out how you can help them,
I'm basically saying that you see, I want to make sure that I've covered everything, but I'm a little too close to this project right now.
Yeah.
I'm almost finished. I'd like to get some feedback from you. This will only take a few seconds. You can go to this link and answer 1 simple question. Bang.
Perfect. Yeah. And then so you're not coming across a salesperson.
Oh.
Probably the most deadly problem of all, actually.
Yes.
And so if you can avoid that, then you're there. And the other idea of presenting yourself as an expert is very important too, because people can't see you as a salesperson and as an expert at the same time. Like you're either one or the other, right? And it's all about the context in which you present yourself, right? So for years I did knocking on doors. I was a salesperson, and it was a lot of work, and it didn't really work very well. But we were young and had a lot of energy, and we could do it. But then I wrote a book about internet marketing, and that marketing effort generated like $10 million worth of business for us, because I got speaking engagements, I got all kinds of clients, I got Johnson & Johnson, I got IBM as a client, because I had written this book, right? And they all called me, like basically, right? They came up to me because I was now positioned myself as an expert. So that value positioning, there you go. salesperson down here, expert up here. So if you're marketing yourself in a way that comes across salesperson, you're down here. But you think, oh yeah, but I'm really an expert. But if you start acting like a salesperson, they're not going to see that, right? So
Right.
so this is what you're also doing, right? So webinars and speaking and writing articles and doing videos, not about you though, about them and their problem and their possible solution is what will position you as a good expert there.
Well, I've created a book called Beyond Bare Balconies and Terraces.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And it's, the essential guide, the condo owner's essential guide to transforming bare balconies and terraces. So I'm at about 98% all the graphics done, the text is done. ChatGPT actually helped me. I took the whole thing and each chapter I wrote it, and then I took ChatGPT, they sent it back and forth, and actually we refined it so much better.
Okay, well, here, let me ask you a question. So, sorry, what's the title again?
Beyond Bare Balconies and Terraces.
Bare, okay, and then what's the subtitle?
The Condo Owner's Essential Guide to Transforming Your Bare Balcony or Terrace.
Okay, let me ask you, if I do that, how is that going to make me feel?
Oh, it's going to transform your life.
Okay, and how am I going to feel?
You're going to feel, well, a basic question I ask people when I have a qualifying call with people.
Uh-huh.
I asked them, said, look, I want you to imagine that it's 12 months from now.
Yeah.
And your space is completely transformed and you're having your first balcony or terrace party out there with friends and family. What do you want them to be saying about what you've done here?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want hearing them say? And it makes them pause and stop and think about it. And I get some great, they tell, and it's all about them, how, this is a really cool investment and it's amazing, this outdoor oasis that they've created for himself or for themselves, for their family. And, they got egos. We work for affluent, rich people and they've got pretty egos, and they want to really feel fantastic that this wasn't a mistake. In many cases,
so they're going to feel fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so your title is boring. Sorry. So I would call it something like Fantastic Oasis.
Yeah.
Or the Fantastic Oasis, right? And then give me the subtitle.
The Condo Owner's Essential Guide to Transforming their bare balconies and terraces.
Okay, well, we'll keep the subtitle, but the title needs to be more interesting. So, like, I like the word oasis because then it gives me a feeling like I've got my, fantastic oasis or my personal oasis or something. Like I get a good feeling about that.
Well, I mean, when you look at these spaces in a, downtown or wherever on the side of a building and it's all concrete.
I know, yeah, right, exactly. So
we're dumped, lush space. It is an oasis.
So that word, I think that's a good word. So you just try to get that in there. I'm not trying to, I shouldn't have said your title was boring, but it is. So I got to say. I'm giving you feedback. You want to, but that's okay. That's a working name. That's fine. So I don't want to feel like I'm being hard on you or anything, but we've known each other a long time. But definitely you go, how can I get, something in there that is, really evocative of what they're going to end up with, maybe. So they're going to end up with an oasis, right? Yeah. Outdoor oasis or balcony oasis on. Yeah, just I know I'd like fantastic away.
How about oasis
can
in
I
the
even
sky?
Can I even say it? Oasis? I can't even say the word anymore. But fantastic oasis. It's good. Something like that. Because then I got to read that. What's that? A fantastic oasis. What is it? That's what you'll feel. You'll go, this is a fantastic oasis. That's the end result. So we always think ahead where do I want to, not only what there'll be, but how are they going to feel? Because it's all about feelings. We make all our buying decisions based on how we feel.
Well, what about your fantastic oasis?
Even better, because then it's making it about them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I think we've upgraded anyway the name, but that's something that I'll add here to the big idea part is that it's all about emotional value, right? So we make 90% of our decisions based on how we feel, not about what we think. We think it's the other way around, but we're actually acting on our feelings. Okay. So this is why, they don't always have to articulate how they got a bad feeling about what you were doing, but they had a bad feeling. So that was it. They won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. They talk that way about politicians, but it's true about marketers, right? So
Bill, I was just going to throw out a word for you're saying oasis, but as the counter position is the mirage. I don't know if that fits into anything of what you're saying, but it just came to me. So
yeah, no, that's good. So now we're playing with that. That's excellent. Yeah. And another way to play with this too, and I call it the anti-model in the model. Okay. Because when you look at a situation, you should be saying, okay, what's the worst case scenario here? About this, like a balcony all covered in bear, the bear balcony trap, right, or whatever. Okay, that's the anti-model, and then the model is the fantastic oasis. That's the model, right? So those two contrasts, right, are actually really helpful now because it makes the model look even better because you have the anti-model right beside it. That's how I do everything I do. So I had old factory thinking is the anti-model, new factory thinking is the model. And then I just kept articulating how to explain that to people. And then I wrote the book, New Factory Thinker. Right. And so I always have in mind now, okay, very clear, this is the anti-model, it's the model. And so anti-model, product first trap, model, relationship first formula. It just starts to really organize your own mind so you can see things clearly yourself. And then you articulate them to that. Another analogy I use, which is very good, is I talk about the fork in the road. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you meet a prospect, think of them as being at the fork of the road. Okay. And they're all going to go down the wrong road. Okay. That's far in your mind. They're all going down the wrong road because it's sort of like that's the way they've always gone. And that's the way people are encouraged to go down the wrong road. And you go, I could take them up the right road, the happy land, because the wrong road will go over the cliff. Happy land road is over here. Okay. And so you've got to do, first thing you got to say, stop. Hold on a second. Just think about it for a second, people. They say, what do you about? I said, that is the wrong road trap. You're going to go down the wrong road. There's a cliff there. And I want to try to at least know that that's what's going to happen. I've been down there. I've seen it. You don't know that. And then you explain it, that's the product first trap or whatever. It's the bear balcony trap or whatever.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, now they stopped. Okay. They go, okay. And then you explain, now there's this other road you can take, and it might be just a little harder to take at first because, not everybody takes that road, but this is where it will lead. And it's happy land up there. Okay. And then, better you are explaining that, they go, oh yeah, I think we want to go to happy land. And you'll say, look, I'll just take you up the road a little bit for free so you can see what it looks like. Maybe you can get a glimpse of happy land up there. And then once you get them on that road, though, they're probably not going to turn around and go down the wrong road, right? But it's that idea of stop. And that's the name of the problem, right? Toenail fungus, stop a minute there. Right? Luckily, I didn't stop in the highway and pull over and look at my toes. Like I thought maybe that would have been unwise, but okay. But I did stop and go, oh man, what about my toes? I haven't been thinking about my toes enough. So it's that fork in the road. It's that moment of truth that we have, you see. Or you could just be somebody helping them go down the wrong road if you want. That's the choice most people make, actually. Yeah. That's where everybody's going. I'll just give them the widget to go down that road. I don't care what happens to them, really. I just want to make my money. But I don't know if you want to be that person. And also, that's, maybe not sustainable because eventually people get it, but you don't care.
Well, you mentioned earlier on in presentation this morning about pricing.
Yeah.
And the comparing of the basic versus the special.
Yeah.
And I like it when it's the phraseology, the terminology that we use is really basic, because people try to put some fancy words or names or terms around basic and special when maybe those are the only two words you really need to say, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, you can just use that. I mean, that's tried and true right
yeah,
there.
I mean, you're standing in front of a table with 20 people, and you know,
Yeah.
do you want basic, you know, or do you want the special? What's the difference? So I've used that as well, and we also have like the super size, the you know, the equivalent of the $600 glass of scotch. But when I communicate, I'm struggling with how to communicate this from a pricing point of view. You know, the basic costs X dollars and the special costs Y. But you know, I've essentially got three different conditions. We got balconies that are like 100 to 400 square feet, and then from 401 to 800, and then 801 to whatever, and you know, and so that's on one side of imagine this as a three column table. Okay, so you've got on the left hand side you've got the three different conditions. Then the next column is the basic pricing, and then the third column over to the right is the special pricing, you know, for the special product. You know, is it like
that's a premium price.
Premium, as it is premium price. So how do I create a widget that they could just press it, it toggles it, and immediately brings them to that price?
Well, I mean, that's a little technical thing. I don't think that's such a big deal, really. I mean, as long as you have the right prices. I mean, one thing I can say as far as the ideas people get about things, okay, is that the marketplace is really broken into two markets right now. There's the fast food and there's the gourmet market. There's no middle market for anything. Okay. So if someone feels like they're in the fast food market, like for example, I'm on my phone looking at an app, right? And the app is 99 cents. And I want it, but I'm also pausing because I go, well, it's 99 cents, right? I think, well, maybe there's somewhere I could get a free one, same equivalent, you know. So I'm in the fast food market. I'm like, you know, I'm conditioned in there to look for the lowest price, right? But then the same day I go out for dinner for, let's say, anniversary or something, I'll spend $300. I won't even look at the prices on the menu, and I'll give the person a big tip, and you know, $350 or something, right, at the end. And then I go back to looking on my phone. I'm still going 99 cents. I don't know. So why am I behaving that way? Because it depends on which market I'm in, right? So what you want to do is get people into the gourmet market, because otherwise you're not going to make any money. And so what's happened with the internet is it's just kind of made everybody feel like, well, if free is now, and the AI is really doing it even more. Okay, because you know they're going, okay, well, iStock has these photos, $50 for 3 of them a month or something, and they're going, but I can get them for free, kind of like pay $20 to AI or to ChatGPT, but basically I feel they're free. Okay, so they're in the fast food market right now with their photos, and unfortunately a lot of people are, and AI will make that all of them hot dogs, and the best price is free.
But shouldn't you have the
yeah, you can have the basic.
Yeah.
Okay, you can have the basic, but our whole approach here is not to get them not to want it, basically, right?
Right.
You know, okay.
You're aware that it exists.
Because we're saying, well, that's your choice, you know, and some people, they don't even offer the basic. They just say, but that is your choice. You can go to someone else and get the basic. So that's how they present it, right? Like, that's how I do it now. I go, you know, if you want some plumbing work done on your marketing, then lots of people I could send you to. That's fine, and you know, you need that, so go for it. But that's the basic. The more advanced is my big idea process, and that's a, you know, full-bodied thing, and you know, it's not free, right? And so that's the only place to be in the world here. So, like for example, let's say you create a course, an online course. Everybody has that dream, create an online course. That's really tough because, and what I did was I created an online course. I said I could make it $40 because I think, well, I get lots of people in. So instead, I made it $4,000.
Right.
Okay. And I said, yeah, and you'll have a little bit of time with me. Okay. Because a $40 course, you think, well, Well, I could go on Skillshare, basically, it's kind of free, or on YouTube, it's kind of free. Like there's a lot of free things. So you got to make that big differentiation, right? It's like, okay, it's free basically, or it's $4,000, you know, and obviously then there's a perception. Well, the $4,000 one obviously is better. So I go, yeah, go ahead and fiddle around with the free stuff. Do that first. And then when you're ready, come to me and we can do it, you know, the full thing. Maybe you need to do that first. But then they'll find out, yeah, I didn't really get it all figured out there because it was free, basically, right? That's the wrong road, but we'll go ahead. Maybe you can just step back before you go over the cliff on that one. All right. But anyway, but this idea of having these two markets, that's another part of the big idea. It's like, okay, this is your choices now. That's what I was saying. You can have the basic steak, which wasn't free, obviously, or you can have the special, which is at a higher level, you know. I mean, it's really fun. And the thing is it's so easy. Like once you figure it out, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Like for almost anything, like anything you're marketing, you go, oh, you know, I could just do that. Just what Bill said. You know, that's the thing. I've been doing this for 35 years. So a lot of times when I explain these things, it just sounds so simple. It's like, well, you know, it just took me 35 years to figure it out. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's why it sounds simple. But and I go, this is like money in the bank. Mm-hmm. All right. So a big idea at the end of the day is something new, better, and different, takes everything to a much higher level. That's only people can get from you. So right. Something new, better, and different, takes everything to a much higher level that people can only get from you. And that's got to be your starting point with your marketing. Right. Because if that is not there, then like you go to people's websites, right? They put a website together. And I go, yeah, that's basic. That's all basic. That's the penguin selling hot dogs there. And I go, and then you go, I got that, I'm good. That's something you really got to avoid. Okay. It's like, oh, okay, I'm done. I got my website up and I'm all good. I know I'm great. I've got a great thing. People come to your website. It's boring. It's all about you. You know, it's what they're hearing from everyone else. You know, it's like, that actually is, you might as well, better not to have a website at all.
Right.
You know, I started my business really because I was selling advertising for Toronto Life magazine. And so I had all these retailers as advertisers. And I would say to them, well, when I did the ads, I was helping them come up with a big idea, right? Because I thought we got to have something in the ad that's going to help you make sales. So I was really kind of their ad agency too. But then the other thing I realized, well, they weren't doing anything else. They were just advertising in my magazine. Yep, you know, and I'm going, that's not enough. You don't have a marketing plan. So I thought, I'm going to start a business. I'll help people make a marketing plan. And then I realized, well, the big idea is actually the biggest part of that. And so that's what I've always been trying to do is say, hey, listen, don't waste your time. You know, right. I've seen people with trade show booths. They spend $100,000 million on the trade show booth. It's all about them. It's boring, right? They're just selling stuff and they come across a salesperson. And I'm going, that's just the worst, you know, all that trouble, all that money, and you're putting that out. But if you just step back for a minute and went, okay, how can I make it all about them? Right? Something interesting here. And, you know, then it would be so much more effective. So that's easy. That's it.
Thank you so much for your thoughts and comments on this. This is great.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I wanted to bring in now that we're in the after party phase here, because you know, anyone wants to go, you can, because we're in the after party, but I encourage you to stay tuned. Have you been looking at Google Gemini? Talk a little bit about AI now. Google Gemini. So go online. I don't have the link in front of me here. So I'm just going to send you a few links anyway before I forget here now and think about links. These are kind of my core links here, just things you can do to follow up on all this stuff. Here, just get it here. Just send that in the chat. Anyway, but you can go online and on YouTube and look up just Google Gemini, okay? And they have a video that Google did to launch Google Gemini, okay? So now there's been a backlash already from that, because if you watch the video, you go, oh my God, that's unbelievable. But they kind of doctored it. And so they can't actually in real time do what they're showing there. So then everybody, came crashing down on them. But it basically is capable of doing those things. It's just not in the way the video shows. So that was like stupid marketing. That was bad. Like that, talk about bad idea right there. That was like really dumb. Okay. But anyway, but they've got a good thing here. And what it is like, so we have ChatGPT over here, and then we have Google Gemini over here. So they're like competitors, right? So they've tested Google Gemini. It's beating ChatGPT at practically everything, but just by a little bit. And the actual results may be a little suspicious, but I'd say they're more or less equivalent, okay, as far as what they can do at this point. But that's not mean that ChatGPT will not go to ChatGPT 5 very soon. So they might leapfrog them again. But one of the things is, and the terminology is multimodal AI, okay? So we were talking about ChatGPT and how I was making the pictures, okay? So I'm able to say, hey, ChatGPT, give me a picture of a lobster. And it makes the picture. That's great. I can put a picture in and I can say, hey, tell me what the picture looks like, okay? What's in the picture, right? It can do that. So that's sort of multimodal, but it's a little bit of a party trick. What Google Gemini is, it's built from the ground up to be multimodal, which means that you can input video or text, audio, text, images, audio, video, and maybe code, and programming code. Okay, you can do all those things in, and all those things can come out. Depending on, like, you could put in words and get a video. You can put a video in and get words. You know how to follow me? So, and you can put them all together. And so this is huge. So in the video, the computer is actually using computer vision. So it's not just they're uploading, it's actually got a camera of the computer is looking at what you're doing in front of you. So they put like a little rubber duck. It was a blue rubber duck. And they said, it's a blue rubber duck. And then, well, and then ducks are blah, blah, blah. And it was going on about duck. And then to put it down on this little map of the world. Oh, the duck. Okay, well, it's in the Pacific Ocean. And, and it just kept going on about what it was seeing and thinking, well, what give me an idea for a game where we could play with ducks and the maps and all that. And we came up with a whole game. Like it's an amazing video to watch. And then it could go, this is where we're headed here. Like I say, the video itself was a bit of a parlor trick. So they got a backlash for that. But the actual advances of this are huge. And so it's available now, but just in their very basic form. And it's not really even as good as ChatGPT at this point. Gemini, I forget what they call it, Plus or something. They have 3 levels of this coming out. But once that higher level is available, I think we're all going to be using that too. And that'll give ChatGPT a run for its money. I think they're going to figure out how to embed that all into search and to monetizing it all. And that could be good or bad. But it's definitely something you might want to investigate at this point, is that. Okay? And they call it Google Gemini, because they brought together their 2 AI companies and they put them together. And these 2 companies had a different kind of way of doing AI, and they blended them together. So one was basically about gaming, like playing games, and the other one was about large language model, and they put them together. And now it's got like this Gemini twin, 2 things together adds up to something even more profound here. So we're into another level of advancement of AI, just like that. So check out Google Gemini, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any questions about AI and stuff like that right now? Are you using it? What about you, Dan? You got something new you've learned about AI since last time?
Well, it's nothing I can share, but we're just working with Next Collabs, and it's just the creation that we're doing together is just spectacular. And the workshops that they provide. So if you're not on Next Collabs working through their workshop, I'd really recommend it. It's kind of like the Bill Bishop of ChatGPT.
Yeah. Right. So they're our strategic partner. I did put that in the thanks for that call out there, because I am encouraging everyone to take their course. And this is a very good way to get really up to speed on all of this, Can you tell us a little bit what you've learned there?
Well, it's just the inspiration that we're coming out of the group right now. So we're actually doing real time. In next collabs, you can actually go away and there's a work session that Michael and Brad and Wave and others are helping you actually work through how to use ChatGPT and use it more effectively. And, you know, Michael, as you talked about earlier, is just showing how you can just create brilliant images as you did. I mean, your castle story last week, Bill, was fantastic. And, you know, just how you created it had to be through ChatGPT and maybe Dolly, right?
That was exactly, yeah. So when I did that, I thought, oh, I want to tell this story, sort of like a little parable, you know. So I said, well, give me some images that, you know, look like they're lithographs, you know, line drawings from, you know, the 1400s or something, you know. And then I told them what I wanted to be. So it made a series of images that basically told my story. And then I put them in my slides, and that was it. Bob's your uncle. Like, it was really amazing, you know. And you can, and then I go, you know what? It's not going to be long, or I could just tell them the story I wanted to tell, and it'll make a video of it, right? Like, that's already happening. And then next week, we got one more Monday between now and the end of the year, I can do, and I'm going to experiment with some video. It's called Pika Labs. I'm looking at that now. Pika. Pika Labs. I just haven't had time to kind of dig into it yet, but it looks really interesting. So it's kind of the beginning of making movies with just asking it for a movie. That's why all those Hollywood people went on strike. I don't know if that's going to save them, actually, but you know, I don't want anybody to lose their job, but you know, it's just like, man, something else.
So Bill, just a question, if I may. I tried to get some things going with doing the imaging and that sort of thing, but I'm struggling with which ones am I paying for, which ones are included, and it seems like you have to buy DALL-E as a subscription and ChatGPT and
no. So ChatGPT, DALL-E is now embedded in it. So if you have a subscription to ChatGPT, which I think there's a waiting list right now if you don't, but if you do, then you can just ask for an image right in the chat line of ChatGPT.
I think it's 4.0, right, Bill?
Ask me, what's that?
Doesn't it have to be ChatGPT 4.0?
Yeah, so you have to be on 4. So if you're doing the free version, you don't get 4. So you have to pay the subscription, $20 a month or something, US. And then you have access to all its capabilities, including doing the images. And,
but I don't think they'll let you join 4 right now, right? So
no.
I did a subscription to something less than that. So that I'm struggling along trying to do DALL-E, and then so they're disconnected. So I'm just trying to figure out if it's me or is there something else going on. So it's
it sounds to me like that you really should take that course that Dan's in, honestly, you know.
Well, what I'm afraid of is I'm going to be the donkey in the room that doesn't know.
No, that's the whole point. Is people are coming because they don't know much about it. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Brent, they'll actually just walk
like it's a beginner thing. Like, that's the thing. And then, you know, people are they're way ahead, but they're all going to help you and stuff. So you know, I can't, that's not the forum for this here. I can answer some questions, but to teach all that, you know. But this is one thing I'm telling everyone. I'm going off now to Halifax. I'm going to give 3 talks on AI and the future of business and stuff. And my biggest message to them is going to be, you need to participate in this. Like, you cannot delegate it. You can't buy it later. You have to play along with it. Like, it's something that you participate in, right? It's like a sport or an art form. You have to play the game, right? And you know, like I said to these CEOs on Tuesday, I said, you can't delegate this to someone else. Like a website, you could, right? You could say, just give me a website, and there you go, right? You can start to get someone to do it for you. But when it comes to AI, I said, the CEO is the first person that needs to know how to use all this, because you need to be able to use it for yourself to make you a better CEO, but you also need to know what this is capable of, so you can vision the future. If you're not playing with this, you're not even thinking about that. It'd be like, a taxi company owner didn't have a smartphone, right? I don't need a smartphone. Well, then one day they go, well, everybody's ordering taxis on a smartphone, and it's called a Uber, right? And they go, oh my God, I don't even have a smartphone, and I don't even know about Uber. And well, yeah, we didn't know anything because you weren't playing along, right? So anyway, I don't want to beat
I agree
horse
with
there,
you.
but I think there's a link there if you want to check out what they have.
Okay.
And and it's a community of people, so they're all people who are at every level. And don't be shy about it, because we're all in the same boat. Like,
Yeah.
we all, and I know a fair bit, but I still only know like 2% of it, so it's fine. It's like,
I was figuring I had to stumble along and get some of these subscriptions and be able to play with it enough so that I could go in and,
well, what I would suggest, frankly, is that if you buy those subscriptions but you don't know how to use them, then you're wasting your subscription. But if you take the course, then that'll be less than the subscriptions, and you'll learn about it. And then you're like, well, I only need this one, or I only need that one. So,
like I said, I thought people were starting at
no. Yeah. Okay. So maybe well, there you go. That's part of the big idea, right? We need to make sure we've got the right idea. Yeah. This is an entry level course for everybody. So it's not an advanced thing.
donkeys are welcome.
Where do you
Donkeys are welcome.
Where do you find this course, Bill?
Okay, here, let me just send you that link for it again here. There you go. So if you did there, it's the next collabs. And then so like I say, I have a strategic partnership with them. I did, Michael's been to many times. Doug was here earlier. And they really know what they're talking about. And I've been working with them since the beginning of the year. We did a couple of webinars together. And so I said, listen, guys, you just create this course and I'll send everyone to you, because you guys know what you're talking about. So, and you can try it out. Like, you can try it out for a month or so. And then, like, I think it's like $90 or something. It's like not a lot of money. Yeah, again, that's clear. You got to be clear. It's only $90 for a month. You can do 1 month and just see.
I think
some of these subscriptions are $100 a year, and so, and like you say, you've got them and you don't know what you're using them or how.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd probably, anyway. So they can explain to, like, if you can't get into ChatGPT, they'd say, well, here's a way to get at it through Bard, for example. There's a lot of technical stuff that I don't know, but they do. Like, they've got a very deep bench of people, so they can answer pretty well any question.
I think it's a perfect compliment for this, because, Bill, I really just love the Bill idea, the new out of the box thinking, how to really reposition an idea to make it, the solving the big problem for someone. They're just kind of the bookends on it to help you as you go through the journey. And honestly, I'm a donkey, Brent. I'm totally a donkey in the stable, but we're all donkeys. And here's the deal: you're learning from each other. I wouldn't miss this meeting with Bill. It would take a lot, and I'm on the East Coast, so I got to get up pretty early to attend this meeting. This is one of my most important meetings of the week, and I would say that's a really close second from just a learning aspect, because it's you're in a classroom, we're just all doing stuff together, and you can actually say, I'm completely stuck, and everybody will jump in and help you. So it's kind of like the teacher walking around the room. Bill did it this morning. He's walking around the room with everybody and say, okay, give me an idea. Who's working on something? Let's work through it. Right? Bill does the very same thing in this class with the big ideas. This is absolutely critical. That's just going to accelerate it. It's kind of a force multiplier to help you work through this.
So Dan, have they already started, like, lesson 1, if you will, and they're on lesson 5, or is it every week it's like a sort of like this?
So there's 2 things. There's actually a tutorial you can jump into.
Okay.
Go to the website. There's actually a tutorial, and you can go through it. And they've made it from if you don't know the first thing about ChatGPT, jump into that, and we'll show you. And the tutorial walks you through everything as Bill described. Then you get into the classroom, and honestly, we're all kind of at different levels. It's kind of like the old farmhouse school, right? I mean, we're out in the wilderness, and you got a senior, a junior, a 5th grader, and a kindergarten all in the same room. The teacher's walking around helping all of us. And I'm the kindergartner in the room, just to be honest with you. And so, so don't, Brent, just come. You'll enjoy it. It's worth your time. Don't be intimidated. There's other people in this call that are there. And And it's like this one. Honestly, Bill just does such a fantastic idea when you walk through and say, oh, well, let's talk about it. And Bill does it in real time. It's kind of like that using some of the tools.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really helpful.
I'd just like to add one other thing, is that the experience that you will have, I'm a part of Next Labs for quite a while, so I'm not participating in the program that you're referring to, but it's actually the learning experience of other people's challenges. As you're going through those conversations and you have that dialogue and also the support mechanism that's there amongst those that know. So, you know, you're in the sandbox playing, you have somebody giving you guidance, but when you're finding out others are having similar types of challenges, when they're solving their problems, you're actually helping to solve your own. So that would be my kind of comment on it.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks, James.
Yeah, good. Okay, yeah, so definitely a good idea to do that course for sure. Okay, so we're just to wrap up today. So thing to think about going forward is, you know, what's the big problem that people have, your customers have, that no one's helping them with? That's the first thing to always be looking at. And that's kind of an open-ended thing because there's always problems that people have that no one's helping them with. So that's good. And then you go, okay, then I'm going to package up that problem with a name, right? Like the ostrich trap. I had one client that did that, right? She said, you're ignoring the safety issues in your company, and you're putting your head in the sand. You got the ostrich trap. And then she put a picture of an ostrich on a little poster with do you have the ostrich? Are you caught in the ostrich trap? And they go, what's that about? And you go, well, you're not thinking about safety. That changed her business. Crazy. And then we go, well, what's the solution? What are we going to call that? So we have a name for that. And then, you know, and then we say, okay, well, this is the fork in the road. You could go down this way and fall into that trap, or you can go this way and end up in happy land. Which way do you want to go? Right. And you package up that whole thing as a program, then you really you got some way to monetize all of this. You see, I just think personally, if everyone knew how to do this, the economy would be so powerful. Like, it would be amazing how much powerful it is. Like, I have lots of clients I've worked with for like 20, 30 years. Like, they've just gotten so good at it. They'll come to me and say, oh, you know what? I was like thinking about this person, and right on the spot, I named the problem, and then I came up with a name for the solution. I sold them a program, and it was all in one meeting, and like I figured it all out in 10 minutes. Like, it was like crazy. And they go, hey, that's what I need. Okay, great. You know, so that's why this process here, it's like instant value packaging. It's like, it's amazing. So fun.
Bill, I'd like just to make one other comment. Maybe it's towards Frederick. I think he's the one that has the balconies, right?
Right.
And that is that where you have the basics of fee, but the special is an investment.
Investment.
Okay, because that delineates the fact of what it is that you're doing is a return on the experience, or whatever the mirage or your oasis or whatever that might be an idea that he could noodle with as he tries to position. That's just a thought.
Very good point.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So so next Monday we're going to have another meeting, and then I'm off for 2 weeks. I'm going to Mexico. I'm not going to do any big idea meetings down there. Don't think. I'll get some big ideas when I'm there though, and I'll bring it back. All right.
Or lithographs. Those are fantastic. The parable was it just resonated.
I'll
Bill,
think
it's
of it.
like, wow, this thing just knocked me in my can. I'm like, that was so good.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
By the
way, I certainly enjoyed making it. It was really a fun creative process, and you know, and that's the thing about AI. Like, it's like I could take my thought and turn it into something like that, like just like that. Like, it's like how that would never have been possible before, right? I mean, I've had that story for 20 years I've been using, but I never had the images because it wasn't going to hire someone to pay him $20,000 to make a bunch of images for it. No, it wasn't going to happen. So that's why I find this all really, really exciting.
Bill, I owe you something, and I'm going to send it to you in the next 2 days. Just to let you know. So I'd like to send it to you in email before we put it up on the web.
Oh, okay, great.
It's per your request.
Yeah, well, if it's money, I can give you my bank wire, you know.
Exactly. I know how to spell bishop.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, have a great day. Have a big idea week. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.